there were 96 industrial fatalities that occurred out here at the Hoover Dam, but just keep it in mind, that number 96 is very, very deceiving. See, like we talked about earlier, it's all about capitalism here in America. This wasn't built by the government. This was contracted out to a private company. Actually, back then, it was too big of a project for any one company to take on. So 6 massive companies came together. They formed what's known as the Big Six. 6 companies incorporated. They're very creative with their name. So they're the ones that built the Hoover Dam. And those big companies, they wanted to make a profit. So guys, keep in mind, the men who were considered industrial fatalities, those were the people whose deaths officially were attributed to work at the Hoover Dam, and their families received the insurance payouts, the death benefits. Guys, the companies would have to pay a portion of those insurance payouts, those death benefits. They didn't want to do that. They wanted to make a profit. So what they did, they narrowed down the qualifications in order to be an industrial fatality. So to be one of those official deaths that counted out here and have your family be paid for it, those men had to die from an accident, and they had to die at the Hoover Dam. So there were 96 men who died from an accident at the Hoover Dam. Those are the official industrial fatalities. So guys, keep in mind, they were very, very strict with this rule in order to save money. And so it's what they call a boots on the ground rule. Meaning if your feet were literally on the ground, you were on the project site. You were here at the Hoover Dam. But if you didn't have boots on the ground, your death didn't count. So there was actually one man that was crushed by equipment that fell down the cliff. Now, he was mortally wounded. He was about to die, but they put him in the ambulance while his heart was still beating. While he was in that ambulance, he passed away. And even though the ambulance was on the project site out here, he didn't have boots on the ground. So even though he died in an ambulance at the Hoover Dam, it didn't count. That's how strict they were. If you were injured here and died at the hospital or on the way to the hospital, those deaths didn't count. So guys, that number is very, very deceiving. Depending on which historian you're reading, you get estimates of well over 300, sometimes over 400 men whose deaths they can attribute to work on the project out here. It just gets very complicated to track all those people down and what their ultimate fate was, especially because this was back in the 1930s during the Great Depression. You had people migrating all over the country. If you've ever read or seen Grapes of Wrath, that's what it was like out here. So very complicated to figure out what actually happened to the people who were injured and got sick out here. A lot of times, you got to understand, the little hospital they built for the dam workers, it only had 60 beds, 60. Any given month, you had an average of 3,500 men working on that project, sometimes over 5,000 men down there. So 60 beds in that hospital on a dangerous project like this, they were filled all the time. That hospital had more patients than they could handle. And so a lot of those guys, they slip between the cracks. Their family would get desperate for medical help, and they just end up leaving this area, trying to find a doctor anywhere they could to help get their men healthy. So it's complicated to figure out exactly how many died out here just because of that. But yeah, the official number, 96, we get way, way, way higher estimates than that. Probably about 350 to 400 men died out here from their work at the Hoover Dam. Especially because we had giant diversion tunnels, massive tunnels that are so big they can handle twice the flow of Niagara Falls. So if anybody's been to Niagara Falls and seen it at tourist flow, that raging Niagara Falls, that's 100,000 cubic feet per second is what tourist flow is out there, with that mist coming up and that cacophonous roar. God, that's impressive when you go and see it. But then you come out here to the Hoover Dam and realize each one of our tunnels, our spillway tunnels and our diversion tunnels, they can all handle 200,000 cubic feet per second, twice the flow of Niagara Falls. So this dam looked a little small from up on top of the bridge. It is monstrous. The size and scale out here is incredible. Just from the diversion tunnels, they could have handled 8 times the flow of Niagara Falls, 800,000 cubic feet per second. That's how monstrous the Hoover Dam is. So guys, as we're driving through here, again, keep your eyes open and your fingers crossed. Hopefully we'll spot some bighorn sheep. Sometimes they're climbing up through the cliffs and running around looking for breakfast out there, now that the mountain lions are hiding out in their dens for the day. Now it's safe for them to be out here. And guys, also along the way, if you guys were wondering about the view on the other side of the bridge, so you guys went up on top of the Mike O'Callahan Pat Tillman Memorial Bridge. You guys were on the north side of it, looking down on the Hoover Dam. If you were wondering what was on the other side of that bridge, now Steven's going to answer that question for us. He's going to drive us over that bridge on the other side. Now keep in mind, we don't get good views of the Hoover Dam from there, but we'll see a beautiful view of the Colorado River down in the bottom of Black Canyon. And also, while we're cruising through, I get to prove to you guys that all this rock around us, this is volcanic rock. So guys, we're going to do some drive-by geology along the way. So as we're cruising past, you're going to see this cliff on your right. You'll see what look like little caves, the little holes in the rock out there. So these little miniature caves, these are actually gas bubbles that were trapped in the rock when this was molten rock, when it was melted and pouring down the cliffs and pyroclastic lava flows. Those gas bubbles trapped in that molten rock, as it started to cool down, they hardened up, and that's what formed those little pockets in there, those little miniature caves. So in geology, those are called vesicles, but these are perfect little apartments for the snakes, lizards, all the stuff running around out there in the desert when they want to hide out from that powerful sunshine. That's where they go hide out from most of the time. So guys, this dark rock all around us, this is tough, strong, durable volcanic rock. If we have any rock hounds on board, primarily it's andesite breccia here around the project site at Black Canyon where they built the Hoover Dam. Don't worry, if you guys aren't rock hounds, that's not going to be on the test at the end of the day, though. So guys, like I said, it's tough, strong, durable, volcanic rock, and it's got a lot of iron, a lot of iron to it, and so that oxidizes, it rusts on the surface, and that's what forms the dark coloration on it. When you guys saw that dark rock behind the Hoover Dam, and then that lighter rock underneath, that's the high water mark. So the iron oxidizing on the surface, water actually pulls it from the surface of the rock. So when water comes in contact with it, it's pulling iron off the rock, it's leaching it, and that's what leaves it that khaki kind of bleached color down below. So guys, if you want to get your cameras and cell phones ready, here's our bridge. So this is going to be the Colorado River down below us, flowing south on its journey to Mexico. So look at that view, that is gorgeous down there. And you guys see that little sandbar, you can see those little white lines in the rock in the river. Those are kayakers that are stopped down there. If you guys are looking up rafting and kayaking tours, that's where they launch from. So they start here from underneath the bridge near the Hoover Dam, and they make their way down about 12 miles through that canyon, about 19 kilometers. And guys, with that, officially welcome to the wild, wild west. So now that we've crossed the river, that was the state line. So welcome to Arizona, guys. We're in the Grand Canyon state. And now I get to prove to you that this is volcanic rock. We're going to show you some more drive-by geology. So to help prove to you this is volcanic rock all around us, I'm going to show you volcanic ash as we drive by. We'll see layers of volcanic ash that have volcanic rock right on top of it. So guys, our first example of that, it's going to look kind of whitish to grayish in color, and we're going to see it on our left, just behind the guardrail here. This next cliff coming up, look at the base of it, just behind the guardrail, all this white-gray powdery material, that's all volcanic ash right there, and then that's volcanic rock that poured on top of it. So guys, if you're looking for a massive volcano, let me save you the trouble. You're not going to see a big volcano out here. We didn't get Mount St. Helens, one of those big stratocone volcanoes. Instead, our volcanic activity here was from tectonic extension. The ground was being pulled apart. It was being extended, stretched open. And so underneath of us, the rocks aren't all connected. There's those little gaps in between, the faults and fractures and fissures. So as the volcanologists say, before it can erupt, it has to clear its throat. And so what they mean by that, when it gets pulled open and stretched apart, it's like a chimney opening up. And then the superheated gas from in the earth is the first thing that comes scorching up out of there. It scorches layers of rock and dirt, and it pours out onto the surface. That's what pours that ash all over the landscape. And